Hey there. Ever wished you could like express your opinions better in English? You know,
Yeah.
like going beyond just like or dislike,
Mm.
getting those nuances down.
Mhm.
Well, that's exactly what we're doing in this deep dive.
Yes,
We're going to tackle expressing likes and dislikes in English.
I like.
We've got this super cool source.
Okay.
It's basically like a crash course
Okay.
on how to like say what you really think
Yeah.
from, just mild preferences to those I absolutely love this moments.
Yeah, that's such a good point because I think a lot of times when people are learning English, they kind of get stuck with just the basics.
Totally.
And they don't really know how to express those stronger emotions or even those more subtle preferences.
Exactly.
So this is going to be a really valuable deep dive, I think, for anyone who wants to improve their fluency and sound more natural.
For sure. And what I find so fascinating about this source
Yeah.
is that it's not just about vocabulary.
Right.
It's like it helps you understand how native English speakers actually convey their preferences in different situations. Like,
Yeah.
are you hanging out with friends?
Mm-mm.
Or are you in a formal business meeting?
Huge difference.
Right. So the context really matters.
It really does. Yeah.
Okay, so get this.
Yeah.
The source breaks it all down. Liking and disliking into 6 levels.
6.
It's not just like or dislike.
right.
It's this whole scale from like, I really dislike this to I absolutely adore this.
I love that.
So we're talking dislike, strongly dislike, not keen on.
Okay.
And then on the other side, you've got like really like crazy about.
Yeah. And what I love about that is that it really highlights the fact that there's a spectrum, right?
Right.
It's not just black and white.
Mhm.
There are all those shades of gray in between.
Exactly. And then, the source goes on
Okay.
to highlight how using words like really or absolutely can just like totally change the intensity of what you're saying.
Right. So think about the difference between I like pizza
Mm-hmm.
and I am absolutely crazy about pizza.
Oh my gosh, yes. You're speaking my language now.
Right.
Pizza is life.
Okay, but see, that's exactly it, right?
Yeah.
Like one is, yeah, pizza's all right.
Pizza's fine, yeah.
And the other one has you running to the nearest pizzeria.
Absolutely. You're like drooling. You're ready to order like 5 pizzas right now.
Totally. And that's where those modifiers come in.
Mhm.
They add like that extra oomph to your expression.
Exactly.
And they make it super clear just how strongly you feel about something.
Yeah. Because I like pizza. It's just like, okay, whatever.
It's very neutral.
But I am obsessed with pizza. Like, that tells you something.
It tells a story.
Yes.
Okay, so I love how the source uses role plays to kind of bring all of this to life.
Oh, yeah?
Like they've got this one where it's 2 people at a restaurant looking at a menu,
Classic situation.
totally. And one of them says, I'm not keen on seafood, which is like such a polite way to express a dislike, especially if you don't want to, offend anyone.
Right, exactly. Like, you don't want to be like, ugh, seafood. Gross.
Right.
It's like, I'm not keen on it. It's just a little softer.
Totally. And then the other person in the role play is like, oh, I'm crazy about seafood, especially sushi.
Ooh, good one.
Right. So it's a great example of how you can express like a strong liking in different ways, even within like the same level of preference.
Yeah, that's such a good point because I think a lot of people think, oh, if I want to express that I really like something, I have to use the strongest word possible. But what this shows is that you can actually be quite creative with it.
For sure. And it makes you sound like less robotic too, right?
Yes, exactly. More natural, more fluent.
More human.
Yeah.
This is so useful because I think we've all been there where you're like, okay, I want to express an opinion,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't want to sound rude
Right.
or offensive.
Especially in like a tricky situation.
Yes.
Like you're meeting your partner's parents for the first time and they're serving you something you absolutely hate.
Oh, God.
You don't want to be like, this is disgusting.
Ooh,
You have to find a polite way to say, I'm not really a fan of this.
totally. And like having that range of phrases up your sleeve
Mm-hmm.
definitely helps you navigate those social moments more smoothly.
Absolutely. It's like having a toolbox, right?
Yes.
The more tools you have in your toolbox, the better equipped you are to handle any situation.
100%. And that's where cultural considerations come into play too, right?
Mhm.
Which the source brings up.
Oh, yes.
It's like they point out that in some cultures, being too negative can be seen as rude.
Right. Even if you're trying to be polite about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the words you use,
Mm-hmm.
but also the cultural context,
Exactly.
which is super interesting.
It is. And, I think it's important for us to remember as English speakers that not everybody comes from the same
cultural background. And what might be considered perfectly acceptable in one culture might be really offensive in another.
Totally. And so while English-speaking cultures might be more, like, open to hearing dislikes,
Right.
how you express them still matters a lot.
Absolutely. It's about finding that balance between being honest and being respectful.
For sure.
And that can be tricky sometimes. But the more we understand those cultural differences, the better we can communicate with each other.
Totally. And avoid those awkward moments.
Exactly. Yeah. It's all about where you put it in the sentence. You wouldn't say, like, I like very much this book, for instance.
Oh, you're so right.
Yeah.
That sounds so weird.
Yeah.
So where does very much go then?
Good question.
Yeah.
You put it after the verb, so it would be, I like this book very much.
Oh, okay. So it's all about word order.
Exactly.
I can see how that would trip people up.
It does. It's a really common mistake. But now we know the rule,
Yes.
and we can avoid it. We can all sound supernatural when we're talking about things we like or dislike.
I like it.
Me too.
So it's not just about using the right words.
Right.
It's about putting them in the right order, too.
100%. And the source actually gives us a good example of this in another one of their little role play scenarios.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. This time it's all about social media platforms.
Ooh. Very relevant.
I know, right? And they use a bunch of different expressions to show how you can talk about your preferences in a casual setting.
Okay, I think I remember this one. They were talking about TikTok.
Yes, exactly. And one of the speakers said, I'm quite into it. The content is so entertaining.
Yeah. It just sounded so natural.
It did. And it was a really enthusiastic way to express a strong liking.
Yeah.
And remember how we were talking about those emphasis words?
Yeah.
Like quite and so.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, that's a perfect example of how those words come into play. It's like they're saying, I'm not just a little into TikTok, I'm really into it.
Totally. They're not messing around.
Yeah. No, they're not. And they use other expressions too, like not a huge fan of and can't get enough of, which just shows the range of preferences you can express, even when talking about something as specific as social media.
It's like they're giving you a whole toolkit of phrases to play with.
Yes, exactly. And that's what I love about this source.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't just give you the vocabulary, it shows you how to use it in real-life conversations.
It's like a cheat sheet for sounding more like a native English speaker.
Right. And speaking of cheat sheets,
Oh, yeah.
the source also gives us some pro tips
Nice.
for expressing preferences naturally.
Lay it on me.
Okay, so they talk about the importance of things like tone of voice,
Okay.
using emphasis words,
Mm-hmm.
and including personal experiences in your explanations. Because remember,
Yeah.
it's not just what you say, it's how you say it.
It's giving storytelling.
It really is.
Huh.
And this is where I think it all ties back to that concept of emotional intelligence we were talking about earlier.
Okay.
Being aware of our own feelings and understanding how our words and our delivery can impact other people. It's like a dance.
Ooh, I like that. A dance.
Right. It's a dance between what's going on inside of us
Mm.
and how we express it to the world.
Yeah. And when we get that balance right, our communication becomes so much more powerful.
And authentic. Like people can really feel what you're saying.
Totally. So what do you say? We dive a little deeper into this idea of connecting emotions to preferences.
So down.
Because the source gives us a really interesting example of how to use personal anecdotes to, like, make your expressions more engaging.
Yes, I love this part.
And I think it's something our listeners could really benefit from.
I agree, because this is where things start to get really interesting.
Yeah.
It's about taking those basic I like and I dislike statements and turning them into something much more meaningful.
And memorable.
Exactly.
Okay, so remember that role play where they were talking about their favorite social media platforms?
Mhm.
One of the speakers said they were really into TikTok. The content was so entertaining.
Uh-huh.
But they went on to explain why they felt that way.
Exactly.
It wasn't just this general statement.
Yeah, they gave specific examples.
Yeah.
Like they mentioned those funny dance videos
Mm-hmm.
or those like satisfying cooking tutorials.
Yeah. And it made their preference so much more relatable.
Mm-hmm. Engaging.
Totally. It wasn't just like, I like this.
Right.
It was, I like this because.
Because.
And then they shared a little bit of what makes them tick.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes expressing likes and dislikes so interesting. It can
Yeah.
be a way to connect with others
Yes.
on a much deeper level.
Okay, so like, imagine you're at a party.
Okay.
Someone mentions that they love a certain band.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just being like, oh, I like them too,
Right.
you could share a memory
Ooh.
of a concert you went to.
Yeah.
Or talk about how their music makes you feel.
I love that.
And suddenly you've gone from just a simple agreement
Well-
to a real conversation.
Exactly. And it's like you're opening a door to share something meaningful
Totally.
and connect on a personal level.
Like, hey, we have this in common. Let's talk about it.
Exactly.
And even when you're expressing dislikes, adding a personal touch can make it less about judging
Right.
and more about sharing your own experience.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
So instead of saying, I hate reality TV,
Oh, reality TV.
you could say, I'm not really into reality TV because I prefer shows with more complex storylines.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, because then it opens up a conversation about,
exactly.
like, what kind of shows do you like? Do you
Right.
like sci-fi? Do you like dramas?
Yeah. What are your favorite characters?
Right, exactly.
See, and it can lead to some cool recommendations too.
Absolutely.
So it's all about turning I like and I dislike into starting points
Mm-hmm.
for deeper conversations and
Yeah.
shared experiences.
100%.
So we're not just stating facts, but we're revealing a little bit about who we are.
It's like, what makes you you?
Yeah, exactly.
What makes you tick?
And I think that's a great takeaway for our listeners today.
Yeah, I agree.
So next time you're talking about something you like or dislike,
Mm-hmm.
don't just state the facts. Share a story, a memory, or a feeling.
Yes. Bring it to life.
Totally. Let your personality shine through.
I love it.
You might be surprised how that simple act of sharing can just totally transform a casual conversation into a real connection.
Yeah,
Language is such a powerful tool.
it really is.
You know, it's how we communicate our ideas, our feelings, our experiences.
To the world.
Exactly. And the more we understand the nuances of language, the better we can express ourselves authentically and connect with others.
I think that's a beautiful way to wrap it up.
Well, until next time, keep diving deep.